Welcome back to Cleveland.
Thank you.
It's been my reconciliation of the problems, because I've had children in various schools, big schools, small schools. I've had some go all the way through the Greenwich Public Schools. Greenwich High has about 3,500 students. I wonder if there's a correlation between the amount of education of the adults and the amount of stimulation in the children. And secondly, I'm a proponent of the magnet school, 3 of which we have here today, because there's a synergism that everybody wants to succeed.
Yeah, there is a very strong correlation between family income and education and student achievement. The correlation is high and strong, but correlation, remember, does not mean causation, but they're highly associated. And that association has gone back to research studies done in the 1920s. It's on the percentage, it ranges between 70 to 80% of correlation between families that have income, higher income, and education than other families that have less education and less income. So that correlation has always been around. Of course, it's not deterministic. We all know of examples in either our immediate families and others who we have grown to admire and respect, that there are young people who break out of that correlation. So we know that. But that it exists cannot be dismissed. Now the second point, that shows you my age, I forgot what you said. What was the second part of it?
I was talking about the magnet school.
Yes. Sure. The question was about magnet schools, and magnet schools are one variety of small high schools. They don't have to be only 9 to 12. They could be 7 to 12, 6 to 12. It doesn't matter. They're secondary schools. And those are, they have a theme to them. If the teachers have a choice and choose to work there, and the kids want to be there, their parents have chosen that, that is very powerful. Motivators, period. And after that, it's the principal and the teachers working together to create that. And that was, those would be examples of small high school, small secondary schools, yes.
My name is Nathaniel Johnson. I attend East Technical High School. My question is, as a student of a school district that's in its first year of transformation, what advice can you give me as a student?
What advice would I give you as a student?
Yes.
Did I pay you to ask that question? No, I don't think I did. I assume that, did you choose to be in that school?
Yes.
Okay. Then I would assume that you're highly motivated. Fair? You want to go to college?
Of course.
Okay. Of course. Did you hear that? Of course. All right. The advice I have for you is that continue on the course that you have already embarked on, because you're going to do well. That's the only advice I have. You'll figure it out after that.
Professor Cuban, your statistic about the correlation between family income and education and student achievement suggests that what parents do matters a great deal. In your work with the school that went through the changes, or in other places, have you found any change which has a significant effect on parental involvement in the life of the high school?
There has been a number of places. I can imagine small high schools, alternative schools, charter schools that have been founded by combinations of parents and teachers. And when that has occurred, that is a powerful combination in of itself. And again, as the student from East Tech has indicated, that he chose to be there. I assume that his parents are supportive of that. That is a powerful, those are powerful, what I would call background factors that make what happens on a day-to-day basis more possible to be constructive and helpful to the kids and teachers and so on like that. So there are examples of parent involvement. Now, I'll give you an example of let me see how, okay. In Washington, D.C., the mayor took over the public schools and appointed a chancellor there. This is a young, mid-30s mayor who had swept the district voters 4 years ago. He was up for, in the primary, he was up for re-election, and he lost. One of the factors seemed to be that a lot of parents and a lot of people in the district who had supported the schools and who had thought that their opinions mattered had been ignored. And they literally voted this guy out, Adrian Fenty. And what's happened probably is that the chancellor, Michelle Rhee, at one point or another will follow him out. And this has been a reform movement that has gained national media exposure. She was photographed with a broom on the cover of Time magazine. I mean, it was that national. Now the point goes back to your question. Parents have to be involved at the very element. If a mandate comes from a board and superintendent, a mayor and a chancellor, that this is how we're going to do reform, and there's no participation on the part of the parents or the teachers, that's going to be hard. Now the rebuttal to what I'm saying is, come on, Larry, how can you have reform if you involve parents and you involve teachers? How can you get things done? It's so hard to forge a consensus. And there's a lot of strength to that. Some people believe that you have an open window for a short time and you got to do everything immediately. And that's what happened in Washington, D.C. It's happened in other cities too. What usually happens, there's a reckoning by the voters, by the parents, and so on. And that's what I think happened in Washington, D.C. It has happened elsewhere too. So the parents have to be sold that this is worthwhile for their kids. The teachers have to be sold that, yeah, I have to work harder, but at the same time, I think this is going to be better in the long run for the students that I teach. That is part of a democracy. That's part of public school reform. It's been ignored by a number of people over time, unfortunately.
Thank you, Professor Cuban. One of the questions I have is the perception that everybody should go to college. What is your take on specialty trades, co-ops within school districts, such as mechanic, electrical technician, right, where they're high-paying jobs? I mean, my mechanic's $80 an hour. Right. I just wanted to get your take.
Sure. It's very hard to talk about everyone goes to college and point out that there are a lot of kids, white, Latino, and African American, who don't want to sit 4 more years in classrooms. It's hard to talk about that without approaching, aren't you in favor of equity? Aren't you in favor that everyone should have a right to go to college? And the answer is yes, I'm in favor of everyone having a right to go to college, but there ought to be options available. And what impressed me about Dr. Sanders' transformation plan is that he acknowledges that there are different kinds of academies, there are technical, vocational kinds of options that are open that may get kids to go to college at some future point, but not everyone has to go to an academic institution, spend another 4 years there sitting in class to get a credential that may end up having that person driving a cab when there's another recession. So the notion of having reputable, legitimate kinds of options for students that go beyond what used to be the vocational education option that became a dumping ground for a lot of schools in many urban districts, to avoid that and having these career tech kinds of options, I think is wise.